Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. My name is Louisa Havers and I help high achievers, entrepreneurs and coaches lift the lid on life and business so that they can live at their highest value. Each episode we will bring you our favourite founders, CEOs and guest experts to share with you their insights and strategies to expand your wealth consciousness, your spiritual leadership and aligned business strategies. We know that living in alignment with your soul's mission is what fulfills you, and we are here to show you how to achieve this in an energetically aligned way. If you haven't already, be sure to claim your free abundance activation in the Akashic Records. Go to louisahavers.com/gift to unlock your abundance activation today. And if you'd like my support in having aligned success in life and business, then contact me at www.louisahavers.com and let's explore together if it's an aligned match. Get ready to live at your highest value and to expand into your next level of money as you elevate and receive more. You create more for others. Righty ho, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome everybody. Welcome back to our podcast episode. We're going to be talking about conscious leadership this week. I cannot wait. I'm so excited to introduce you to our very, very special guest, Afsheen. Afsheen, welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks.
I am so excited. So I'm going to share your bio and then we'll dive into all the incredible things. So your bio is very impressive, if I just may say so. I was reading it going, wow, this is fantastic. So Afsheen is a visionary CEO and leadership advisor at the Helix coaching company. Afsheen has amplified leadership capabilities for her clients in pharma, FMCG, beverages sectors, and her copyrighted leadership lifecycle model is endorsed by HR leaders from Fortune 500 companies, no less. That's amazing. And she has over 18 years of prior corporate HR experience with KPMG, Kraft Foods, Abbott Laboratories, and ICF, Global DEIB Ambassador and past co-leader of the ICF 8,000 member leadership and executive coaching community of practice. She champions diversity and inclusion in the workplace. That's close to my heart. That's so fantastic. And the importance of the role leaders play in this space. Originally from Pakistan, she's lived across 7 countries on 3 continents, now lives in Switzerland with her husband and son, and she enjoys kickboxing, flamenco, meditation, yoga, and countryside walks in her free time. A huge welcome, Afsheen.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Just hearing all of that back makes me think I need to take a moment in my day to be grateful and to express my gratitude to the powers that be, because it has been an amazing life.
Yes. Oh, I absolutely love it. And just so I make sure I pronounce your surname correctly, Ismail-Wey? Have I got
Yes,
that?
that's right.
Fantastic. I suddenly realized I hadn't said your surname and I just wanted to make sure that
Okay,
in case that people are driving and they're like, Afsheen who? Afsheen Ismail-Wey.
Yes, that one.
That one imprinted onto your consciousness so that they know who they're looking for after listening to our podcast. Well, there's so much we can talk about, and I know when we were having our pre-call chat, there was just, we could have chatted for the whole day. So I'm so excited for our conversation today. I would love to know how you got started, because there's just been so much that you've achieved in your lifespan, with huge credibility, with working with all these incredible companies. How did you start your business, your journey?
Yeah, this is a really fun question to respond to, because there was a whole journey before the business started, and then there's been the journey since the business started. So at least it gives me a place to begin. Usually people say, can you just start from the beginning? It's like, do you really want me to do all of that? So I will share with you how it all began 7 years ago. So, I'm one of those people that milestone moments are really important too. So I was nearing 40 at the time. And I think that I was sort of living this dream that I had imagined for myself when I was as young as 14. I was truly, truly living, and of course my parents' dream. I'm originally from Pakistan, so very high expectations of what we do in our careers. And so I was ticking all these boxes and making sure that I was working in all the right companies and doing all the right jobs and living in all the right countries. That was everything that I was, and I was loving it. It wasn't as though this was very hard to do. I mean, it was really wonderful. And then I was nearing 40 and something happened. And let's say it's just one of those, you know, moments in life that make you sort of reconsider everything and really look at what's the most important thing to be doing in your life. And so um, and and so here I was on a 13-hour flight uh, due to a personal emergency, um, back to where I was living at the time. I was living in Dubai at the time. And I had these two suitcases. I remember it being November because I had a jacket on and I was running into the emergency room of a hospital just to get to to somebody in my life who was going through emergency surgery. But those 13 hours were the longest 13 hours of my life. And the 1 month that followed, because Christmas period is slow and we have plenty of time to think. In those few days, let's say 6 weeks, I had a lot of time to think about, am I doing really everything that I could do in the world to contribute to my gift and contribute my gifts, and also to create impact and value.
Mm.
And I began to think I could be doing more and different.
Mm.
And it was within a year after that that I that I started Phoenix, and it was also within a year after that that I had
Oh, wow. Do it all at once.
my and so it was all because of that moment. It was a pivotal moment in my life. And I'm so grateful for, and luckily it was a pivotal moment and everybody came out of it well and healthy. But it happened, I feel, because it was an eye-opening moment for me. And so as I looked at that 1 year that followed, as I look back on that 1 year that followed between um, being 40 and 41, I contacted a coach for myself. I hired a coach for myself. And I had asked her to help me transition from being in corporate to being an entrepreneur. Because I wasn't one, so I love having management plans for everything. Some habits are hard to break.
Yeah.
So I partnered with her through this experience to help me transition effectively from what was the life that I had worked my entire life to pursue towards the life that I wanted it to be now, where I was creating fundamental transformational shift in leaders and leadership teams. Um, and I knew that the only way that I believed that I could do that, and the way that I felt I was best able to do that, was through the through the art and practice of coaching. I had
Mm.
seen the impact that had in my corporate career. I've been working in HR ever since I started my corporate career. Some of the most uh, life-changing learning experiences that we'd offered to people in our organization were linked to coaching. So for
Mm.
me, as I came into entrepreneurship, I just knew that that was what it was going to be, that I was going to be working with people and I was going to be utilizing coaching as a fundamental enabler of that work with people, whether it's providing them training, whether it's providing them, whether it's working with them on strategy sessions for themselves and their teams, whether it's uh, what whatever interventions I was going to offer them, they were all going to be grounded in the fundamentals. coaching. And so that's the work that we do right now. That's why we're called the Phoenix Coaching Company, is because we utilize coaching as a fundamental enabler of all of our leadership and leadership team initiatives that we run in organizations, such in the pharma, FMCG, beverages. Long story short.
Yeah, I love it. And those pivotal moments I could really relate to when, you know, and you're like, hang on, something has got to change now. I'm no longer going to tolerate this.
Yeah, yeah.
And what can I do? And there's always more that we can do. We just have to change our perception, don't we? And this is why I love coaching too, is how being able to, when you're working with someone that you can literally just see beyond your current reality, to be able to completely create something new. And I love the name of your coaching company, the Phoenix Coaching Company. Don't just fly, soar. Yes, that's just fantastic.
Yes, I think it encompasses everything that I feel I want this organization to be about and my work to be about. And there's so many stories behind that. Did you know that "Don't just fly, soar" is a phrase from Disney? So
Ooh.
actually, Walt Disney used it. And however, soaring is also the most effective way, the most efficient way that any flying animal flies, because it doesn't utilize any additional action of actually moving arms. It it is that moment when there is enough wind beneath the wings of the bird that it's not moving at all, but it is moving faster and higher than any other time. And
Oh,
for me, that's quite representative of what I'd like the work I do with leaders and leadership teams to sort of enable them to do and become.
love that. And I love that word soar. For me, it really has that essence of um being in flow when things are feeling easy, you've got that momentum going, and you're just really, it's like you're riding the waves, aren't you? You're
Yes.
really
Mhm.
feeling it. Oh, that's
Exactly
just
right.
fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that as well, because I know some people will be listening, you know, on YouTube, and will be able to see us, and others, you know, will be listening on Apple and Spotify and all the things. So it's great to explain that, because they might not see the video. There's been
Oh,
so much that you've shared, and and I love how you transitioned so quickly into your business. What would you say has been the most exciting part of your of this whole journey for you?
for those of you who can't see me right now, my mouth is like wide open because it's like it's been such an exciting ride. I have to say that entrepreneurship is a complete and utter roller coaster. And I
It
feel
sure
as
is.
though that never ends, you know. And it's a very different kind of journey and a very different kind of excitement to the one that you get when you're in corporate. And so I'm going to explain that a little bit. So I think the most exciting part for me of being an entrepreneur and doing what I do specifically is that I get to do it with a several different uh, organizations. And I think that what I love about that is knowing that I'm not in one institution trying to solve one institution's problems, because then I tend I know that I tended to get quite institutionalized, and I had this feeling that this is the only solution to this problem. But interestingly,
Mm.
when you're working with a variety of organizations, and several of them might be dealing with uh, similar outcomes, i.e., we want to drive engagement. However, when you look at their own unique context, you might have different ways in order to make that actually work, and what it is that they want to achieve. How do they want to define engagement? And I can personally define engagement differently for the different organizations that I work in, because they are made up of different entities of people who are driven by different things. And so I love being able to look at the same thing differently on an ongoing basis. And I think that that's the trade-off that I've made as an entrepreneur working, by myself. Uh, the trade-off for me is versus the security of being
Mm,
in one organization and, chipping away at at whatever topic it is that's most um, prioritized in the moment.
mm.
And I love that roller coaster of experiences and the variety. And I mean, I think you can see that I love variety, right? I mean, it's in the way that I live my life. I do kickboxing and flamenco. I can't do one thing. So I think that excitement is actually um, it's the way I want to live my life. I
Mm.
want to live in many different countries. I want to work with many different organizations. I want to pursue many different passions. And that to me is really living my best life.
Oh, I love it. This is music to my ears, and I think we're, the soul family because I love having multiple things going on as well. And I just love what you were saying around, the different being able to problem solve in different organizations, giving you that different perspective. And I think it is such a skill because it really enables you to see things in a different way. I completely know what you mean about being institutionalized. I remember when I was working for social services for 13 years. And I mean, I did loads of different jobs there, and it was being able to kind of work with different partner organizations and troubleshooting that you do start to get different perspectives and to be able to bring that skill set to all your clients, all that breadth of experiences is absolutely huge.
Yes,
So they're very
yes.
lucky to have you. Just thinking about this because we do learn so much, don't we, on our journeys, and you've got that breadth of being in the corporate world, being your own entrepreneur, helping people who are still in the corporate world, and working with people in all different backgrounds across globally, like truly globally, because you've lived everywhere.
Yeah.
um what would you say, what have you learned along the way? That's
So
a big question.
I've learned. I'm going to share my top. Um, I have learned to never give. I
Oh,
know that sounds so cliche.
no, no.
I
This
wish
is
I could say it differently. Um,
you just, yeah, don't give up. Like,
just
give
don't
up.
give up.
Yeah.
In the most recent examples I think that I can think of are
Mm.
very most recently when COVID happened. And ironically, I was actually based in Dubai just before COVID hit. And about 6 months before COVID hit, we decided to move back to Switzerland. My husband's originally from here, and his work actually, after much discussion, we agreed that maybe it would be best for both of us to move here. We'd been asked to move to another geography, and we had said no. We had a young son. We wanted him to be with his grandparents, but
Mm.
also because I'm Pakistani, I would have the ability to continue to run my business uh, if I was here, but I wouldn't have been able to continue to run my business if we moved to North America. It would have taken another year to get permissions. And my career and my work is so important to me.
Yeah.
So we had sort of negotiated and said, okay, fine, we'll move halfway. Let's move back to Switzerland. Let's be near family. And and so here I was moving here very consciously ensured that we did in order for me to be able to continue to run my business from here and also expand my business. So from Middle East to Europe, and I thought, what a nice way to sort of expand a business that had begun to thrive. I'd been at it at that time for about 3.5 years, and it had started to gain traction, and I was super proud of it. And COVID happened, and and so now I'm in a new geography, and I'm not able to go to my clients. We had no way at that point yet figured out how to do remote. And of course, there was all the so first 6 months were just nothing.
Right.
And so in that moment of, is this all falling apart around me?
Mm.
I made so many choices also for my family because of this. And and what was it all for. But it was in that moment that I kind of stopped and I got to thinking, well, what does one, because it's all about perspectives, right?
Yes.
So yes, it's on one hand, there's uh, really big feelings of loss and sort of crushing emotions. And then there was this moment that I had, and I'm so grateful for that moment because it changed everything for me. When I thought to myself, well, when everything's gone to hell, you have a real opportunity to start fresh and do it exactly the way you do it better the second time around. And I thought, what would I just discard?
Mm.
And what's to stop me from doing that now? And what if I re engineered everything? And that was the most fun thing that happened to me. And so it's truly in that finding your perspective
Mm.
when everything is just coming apart around you that can be really helpful in maintaining the momentum. And yet at the same time, and I think that's the flip side of it, honoring the feeling of loss and grief and confusion and what's just happened to me and all of that. And that's okay too. And then find the perspective. Because I feel that in rebuilding, I actually came back stronger and I found more of myself and also more of my business as a result of that. And I'm super thrilled. I mean, last year we crossed six figures, and I don't think
Congratulations.
that could have really happened
Mm.
if I hadn't re-engineered the entire thing and not been afraid of letting go of stuff that could be let go of.
Yes, there's so much that you shared there that is going to be so helpful for everybody, because it is that what I was hearing you saying was, out of the chaos, because you were able to look for the solution and allow yourself the feelings and go
Yeah,
through the motions, but be with that vision and that clarity of, okay, what if I just allow myself the freedom to create this in a different way?
yeah,
Then that evolution and the growth was able to spring forward from that. It's
yeah.
fantastic. I will say to people, what gets you to six figures isn't necessarily won't get you to seven, because you have
Mhm.
to recreate the business structures. You grow, you become a different person, all the things. It's not going to be, one size is gonna, or one program is gonna take you there
No, it's truly,
forever and
truly
ever.
the journey. Yes,
It
I
is, isn't
agree.
it? Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And huge congratulations with the success of your business and
Thank
the
you.
impact that you're making, because I know what it takes to get the business to grow to that revenue stream, and the amount of love, blood, sweat, and tears and love that you'll have put into
All
your
of that.
business. All of it, all of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But as you look back, because it is such a journey, and of course, and it's good old hindsight is such a wonderful.
2020. Mhm.
Yeah. What do you wish you'd known when you started?
What do I wish I had known? It's an interesting one. And I'm going to be extremely like, I'm just going to put it out there
Yeah.
because it's so important to realize this. I wish I'd known that I was going to be a complete unknown when I left corporate and that nobody would care about. That I would be a small voice in a giant forest. That tree that fell silently
Mm.
in the forest. That I would be that. I had such a strong I had such a sense of my own importance when I left corporate. I had a wonderful career. I had really enjoyed it. And I know I went from strength to strength and I loved it. I truly did.
Mm.
The reason I moved on, I shared already earlier. It was really important for me to reevaluate what my next phase of life was going to be like. What I had not at all anticipated was that I'd be starting from being completely unknown. And recently I started reading a book that's actually called Known. And this is 7 years on. I mean, I probably should have read this 7 years ago. And it was but a lot of the things that the author talks about are wonderful reminders to me, and they're quite validating as well, that it
Mm.
wasn't it wasn't my journey alone. It's felt by many people who go from corporate careers to entrepreneurial careers. You are in this ivory tower, in this beautiful institution and you work with groups and groups of lovely people, and all of you are driving towards the same goals. Even when you are not getting along, you are never alone.
Mm.
And then you come out of corporate and you think, of course, I'm always going to be this known, resourced, all of these other things. And there's nothing. And nobody wants to engage with you. I felt like, it's probably not true, but I felt like nobody wanted to engage with me when I didn't have the corporate title and the corporate, you know, the corporate logo under my name.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Like, having done that transition myself, I completely resonate with that. And I think everyone listening who's done it is going to be going, yes, that was me too. Because it's so true. I remember leaving as well and suddenly going, oh, I haven't got a department. There's no one to delegate to. I've got to do it all myself. Where's my VA? Thank goodness I've got a team now. But
Yeah,
and the
but it's very
beginning,
humbling, isn't it? I
very
mean,
humbling.
there was a moment that I actually went out and rented my own sort of office space, like a co-working space, just to claim back a little bit of my significance. And then I said, this is so silly. I mean, I don't need an office space. I can do this from anywhere. And of course, then COVID put all of that to rest. And now everybody's working from home, right? But at that moment, it was the one, I really had lost my entire identity. And I
Yeah.
remember going and getting, signing up for this co-working space just to get some semblance of normalcy and my identity back. And it
Yes.
didn't really help, though.
I bet not.
So I wish I'd known.
Because we create our realities from our identity. This is something that I talk about a lot. And it was one of the things that, like, when I look back and I was like, I had so much grief when I left. Not because I had really left social services. It was leaving that version of myself behind. Like, who on earth was I without that role? And realizing that I just kind of hooked my whole self up onto that role rather than actually I'm me. I don't need a role to be able to be fully confident within my own identity without it being attached to the thing that I was doing, whatever that thing may be.
Yes, this
I
is so
think this
true.
is such a, thank you so much for voicing this, because I think this is such a huge piece for people making that transition, and how we lead ourselves through that transition, because it truly is where we're having to draw on our own leadership and self-leadership to kind of navigate the unknown, and going from being very well established where, when you've worked for an organization for many years, people know you can kind of, that you're everything's certain, how things
Yes,
and
and you
then
have a certain level of influence as well
yes.
that you absolutely don't have when you're unknown.
No.
I mean, it's hard. What used to be really easy, like setting up a meeting with someone, no one wants to meet with you after you've left corporate. It's like, why? Because we used to be friends. I mean,
Yeah, it's a really interesting transition, and then being able to develop all those skills in a completely different mindset, as an entrepreneur. I think the quicker people do that and work on their mindset and I talk about energetics, the energy side of things, to be able to really embody that, the new identity, the CEO of the company that they're setting up, the faster they move in business.
it took
It's
me
such a
years to embody the CEO. And for the longest time, I was really unable to even speak to that part of my new identity. It
Yeah.
feels second nature now, but at the time, no, not at all.
What was the shift for you?
I guess all the hard knocks along the way. It's like, I earned this. I earned this. I earned this and I earned this. And these are all now mine. It's just, I really think that um, I really think you're so right when you say it's so important to do that inner work before. I wish it's interesting because I did have a coach and we had worked through that. And yet at the same time, this was something that still took me
Mm.
by surprise to the degree to which I guess the unknownness was felt. But you're so right. It's truly about doing the inner work first and and being aware that, and I think it's also about the absolute awareness that you will go from being very known and very well resourced to none. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. And I think for me, that work took years to happen after, right? And
Mm.
that's the reason I couldn't embody or I couldn't mentally easily call myself CEO, was because that journey was, it took me 2 or 3 years to really get to that place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think maybe we all, certainly I did, have this. It's interesting that's coming up for me now, but I think in my mind, the vision that one has of a CEO is in the context of big corporates,
Yeah.
right? So then when you become the CEO of a small enterprise, um, you're wondering whether that's valid. And I've gone in
Mm.
on it. So for me, the journey has been in understanding really what is the value that my work and my business brings. And in understanding that better and better, being able to step into the space of saying, well, then I am the chief executive officer of this piece of expertise that only I can offer to any organization in the world. Right. And in understanding that, in reaching that stage, I was able to then say, yeah, I'm the CEO of Helix Coaching.
Oh, you can really feel it's embodied, and then
Yes.
everything changes, doesn't it? As we are able to then kind of lead in a different way, take action in a different way, because we're fully owning that role, then that mantle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you gain a certain sense of gravitas. But I think also as entrepreneurs, one of the things that we don't realize is a gift that only we can offer as entrepreneurs in the world is the ability to geek out on stuff that larger organizations don't have the time to geek out on, right? So I geek out on everything to do with, and I can spend hours and hours and hours reading or writing or speaking to, or I can spend hours, and to be honest, the reason I feel I exist in the world, and I feel a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses or medium enterprises in the world, is because we are needed to do that. If it wasn't for us, I think that there would be a distinct gap in the world, in also
Mm.
even just in the business environment. So as soon as we start embracing the fact that actually we exist and we need to exist because we do the specialist work that bigger organizations don't have time to do, and that as a result of that, we can bring our specialist expertise into the bigger context that might need us to do that, then we can begin to take greater pride and go deeper. And that deepening and that pride, when I became aware of that, when I began to embrace that, that was when again the CEO in me felt much more centered, and and I began to feel the gravitas.
Mm. Oh, this is I can see how it all shifted for you when you were really able to embody it. What was you reflecting back then? And maybe you've already touched on this, but just thinking about, it's the good, the bad, the ugly sort of thing. But what was the hardest part of all of this experience, do you think?
I don't know if it was the hardest, but it is probably hard most often. And for me, it is about being a woman of color in this space, for a variety of reasons. I feel very vulnerable even sharing this because it is so real, it is so felt. I've had a variety of experiences in um, which I imagine people other than me have not had. So, for example, when I look to uh, people who do the work that I do and are doing it very successfully right now and are known and are recognized as leaders in the leadership development space, they are mainly white men
Mhm.
and maybe a couple of white women, right? So we have, for example, we have, um, I mean, for example, I'm reading Brené Brown right now. So we have Brené Brown
Yeah.
as a female role model in space. We have Tony Robbins. We have Simon Sinek. We have Bill George. We have all these wonderful thought leaders in the leadership development space. Um, but it still feels lonely. So I
Yeah.
love their work, and I still don't see myself in them. And so there are a couple of people of color in this space. Vishen Lakhani is one of them. Um, but I still feel as though it's quite niche because there's a lot of spirituality associated with that. And the work I do in the leadership space is very much sort of business oriented, and a little bit less spirituality oriented. And so it's hard for me
Mm.
to know how I can possibly see myself. Um, in that context.
Yeah.
I even have a hard time sort of expressing myself
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
And then, so that's just me sort of looking outwards. And then with clients, I, I sometimes have noticed, and this is increasingly less now. I think the world has really moved forward, especially since COVID, around the topics of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Organizations are actively looking for diverse suppliers, uh, but only 1% of organizations spend in large organizations and government organizations globally right now is being funneled towards women, small small business owners that are women. Only 1%.
Oh.
And that is, and despite the fact that women
Mm.
make about 85% of purchasing decisions worldwide,
Mm.
right? So it also feels as though I'm constantly meant to keep trying harder and harder and harder to 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 um, to achieve what I'd like to achieve for my business and for myself.
Yeah.
And then there have been moments, so even on a smaller scale than that, there have been moments when, I've actually just actively been told, well, we have two groups that we'd like to have coached, or two teams that we'd like to have coached, and we'll assign you to this team and not this team because this is the team of the leaders that are from Europe, and so we won't assign you to the European team, we'll assign you to the local team. And it hasn't made any sense to me how those decisions are just being
Mm.
based on the color of my skin.
Yes.
I don't really understand that when I'm, you know, I know pretty qualified.
Yes.
So these are things that are hard to sort of speak to.
Yeah.
But I think that part of my role in the world is to shed light on this, to be vulnerable about this, to be honest about this, so that uh, other women of color uh, who are looking don't feel quite as alone, and you know they have a knowing that it's not all in their head, and they're not just making.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and courageous and sharing that. And I think that, this is one of those areas of conversation where people can feel like we can avoid conversations that we don't, where we may not know what to say because we feel like recognizing that there is, systemic racism throughout organizations and people feeling awkward either side depending on their backgrounds. People, because they're so programmed, blinkered and not realizing that, hang on, you've just got to kind of wake up and really hear what people are saying so that you can make changes, so that we don't continue to collude with this inherent racism where people are just behaving without realizing what they're perpetuating, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for speaking to that, because I think without these conversations, nothing changes. And one of the things, so just to kind of share, vulnerably from my perspective as well, in the sense of, I remember I used to lead on quality and diversity and social services as part of my role, and led the quality and diversity team. So that's why I was like, this is an area very close to my heart, because I have seen and had many conversations where people have reflected this back to me. So recognizing that big organizations may have allocations, and some might do it well, some might do it really badly in terms of trying to make sure that they're not perpetuating any putting barriers up for women of color, people of color, to be able to have the same advantages as white people, white men, white women, etc. But then how are smaller organizations being aware of this? And when I remember when I was going through and doing my coaching, business coaching training first time, I was like, and this was fresh out of social services, and I was like, where's the quality and impact assessment? I mean, that was the language that we used, and there was no training around that at all. And it just wasn't being spoken of in the online space, with how are you making sure your services are accessible to all and you're not discriminating, if that makes sense. And I
This is
remember
such a good
starting to bring this forward in my business coaching programs, and many of my clients finding it very awkward because it was just new language. It was a
yes.
new concept. And I knew it was going to be difficult to kind of talk about these things because people don't want to recognize necessarily. I know I'm kind of using a sort of blanket term there, but some people don't want to recognize where they may have inadvertently been racist or created barriers, and so therefore don't want to look at it. I don't know if that makes sense or resonates
It
at
really
all.
does. And I think what resonates for me is, just 2 days ago, I was in a supplier diversity conversation with um, procurement leaders from manufacturing, automotive and manufacturing environments and organizations. So I'm part of the women-owned businesses. It's called We Connect. It's a community. It's a global community of women's organizations, small businesses that can register, and once they're registered, they can be certified as diverse suppliers that have the
Yeah.
capability to work with large organizations, like these organizations that were in the call, that were from global automotive companies and automotive manufacturing companies as well. So I was in this call, as I am as often as I can possibly be, and one of the members mentioned something that was super important and lines up with what you're saying, which is, so why is it important for why aren't we seeing enough small businesses doing it? Why is it important for smaller businesses to start doing it? Well, one of the things is, if you are looking to become a supplier to the larger organizations, and if that's where primarily your business is going, most of these larger organizations have now made annual commitments to having greater supplier diversity in their ecosystem. And after they have completed their own internal work around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, the next step that these organizations are going to begin taking is looking at their supplier pool and seeing if their suppliers are in line with their standards for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging as well. So just like previously I used to work with Mondelez. So we used to look at the people that we used to buy cocoa from, the farmers that we used to buy cocoa from, and are these being harvested in the right way? Are these, following the sort of international guidelines, et cetera, et cetera? And then we would only procure from those cocoa suppliers. Similarly, this is going to be the way of the future, which is our suppliers in line with our expectations for diversity, equity, and belonging. So it is more and more imperative upon us also as smaller businesses to step into this space and at least have one or two things that we are working towards, because as we do that, we actually are seen even more favorably in the eyes of those organizations who care about the same things we care
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's such a key piece for everyone who's growing their business and being a human being, to be really saying, do you know what, if I've got plans, we were talking about management plans earlier, if I've got plans for my business, let's bring in that. And I say that I value diversity and equity, and truly what that means to me, and I'm saying me as in whoever's listening, when they're reflecting for themselves, is like, what is one thing that I can do this month to be able to, whether it's learning for ourselves, raising awareness, taking a course that we can kind of start to understand the language that perhaps might not be so familiar to us, if that makes sense, so that we can kind of start to see what we can't yet see. Because that's the thing for me, is, we were talking about perspectives earlier. It's not until you kind of really start to, instead of thinking, no, I'm okay, I'm all good, I'm operating in an ethical way and fair way and all the things. It's not until we start to kind of really challenge ourselves and ask different questions, I think, that we can then open up our consciousness to see what we couldn't see before.
Yes, you're
I don't
so
know if
right.
that makes
I
sense.
totally agree with you. I totally agree with you.
Thank you so much for sharing this, because I think this is one of these conversations that I just feel like we need to have more and more of, so that everybody's awareness, we're all kind of challenging ourselves and our awareness grows, and people aren't feeling alone, and
Well, thank you
having these
for
experiences.
allowing me to, for creating a safe space for me to bring that up, because yeah, it's not comfortable for anyone, but it is our reality, and it's something that we all care about. I know that.
Yeah, well, I'm truly, truly grateful. Thank you so much. And I know everyone listening is going to be really, really grateful for you for having the courage to start the conversation. So thank you. Thank you
Oh,
so
thank you
much.
so much for just having me. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I've loved speaking to you. I feel so connected throughout this conversation and even now. And yeah, I really appreciate your empathetic way of holding this space.
Thanks so much, Afsheen. I know that you might have touched on this already, but just to kind of wrap things up, thinking about 3 tips that you would share with entrepreneurs from all our discussion, because there's been so much. You've just been so generous with all your wisdom and shares.
Yeah, I guess I go back to don't give up.
Yes, I love
You
it.
know, even despite COVID and everything else that's going on, don't give up. Look for that other perspective. Look for like what's becoming available here. I think that's so important. The other piece is don't be afraid to pivot. You
Mm,
know, there's it's so incredibly important that if we get hung up with our ego and everything that we've invested and I've been doing this, but if it's not working, you don't be afraid to pivot. What is the world wanting from you? And be okay to ask that question and then make changes as needed. As Khalil Gibran says, our children are not ours, our children are the universe's yearning for itself. So what is the universe yearning from you? And don't be afraid to pivot towards that. And I guess the last one is, and I really struggled with this in the beginning, so I'm just saying, and I won't get too far entrenched in this. Find a niche. Don't spread yourself so thin that you're trying to be everything to everybody. Be good at something, be really good at something, and then, serve the universe, step into that space, because you are meant to bring value in the world. Just find what that is and then do that.
I'm covered in goosebumps. I just love it.
Thank
Just
you.
incredible. Such a
This is
powerful.
deeply felt, as you can
Yeah,
obviously
I can feel it. I'm feeling it across the internet. Oh, this is just so fantastic. I know everyone listening is going to want to come and step into your world. How can they find you? I know you've got a free gift as well. So thank you so much. Do you want to share all the things?
We have recently launched the Leadership Book Club, and we have already people who are members for free. We have people who are members from Asia, from Africa, from North America, from Europe, from the Middle East. So this is a really diverse group of people, and I'd love to invite anybody who enjoys reading and loves the topic of leadership and self-development to show up and be part of the Leadership Book Club. And I'm going to, I guess, Louisa, I've shared the link with you.
Yes, I've
and
got
so
it.
all people have to do is register. It's very, very simple Google Doc, and then we will invite them into the journey. So it's going to be and it's going to be a very nice, what we're offering is like support between the time that we announce the book and then when we all meet, and we have these virtual meetings in which we discuss the book on hand. And so right now we're reading Adam Grant's book, Think Again, and our first meeting is going to be in November.
Oh, exciting. I love it. I love a good book club. So I think you're going to have loads of people. I would love
I'm an avid reader. And so that's my gift. And if you want to find me, you can easily find me on LinkedIn. It's Afsheen Ismail-Wey. Yeah, I'd be happy to stay connected. Or you can, find my company page. It's www.thephoenixcoachingcompany.com. Thank you for letting me share that.
Oh, thank you so much, Afsheen, for coming on and for our conversation. I've truly, truly loved it. And thank you for all the wisdom and for your vulnerability and really being able to open up the conversation for women of color to be able to, speak about what they're experiencing. And, you've got listening ears here with our community. So I'm so excited to let's all carry on this conversation and to have these conversations, even if we're feeling awkward, so that we can let's change things.
Yes.
This is how change happens, isn't it? Through how we start having the conversation.
So true. So true.
Thank you so much, Afsheen.
You're
it's
so
just
welcome.
been an absolute joy.
I loved it. You made this a wonderful experience. Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who has listened. Please do go and check out Afsheen and to follow her, jump in the book club, do all the things. And we would love to hear your reflections on our conversation. Please do share the episode on social media so more people can, be part of this conversation as well. We'd really, really appreciate that. Until next time, sending you all lots of love. Namaste. Thanks for listening to the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. And if you like what you've heard and want to know more, please go to louisahavers.com. We just appreciate you so much. So thank you for listening and hanging out with us. If there's anything that we can do for you, you can email us at louisa@louisahavers.com. Let my team know if you have any ideas for shows that you'd love to hear or topics you want me to talk about. Really looking forward to hearing from you. All right, that is it for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today. Looking forward to connecting with you again. Until next time, namaste.